One thing I've learned after nearly 30 years in property is that behind every property transaction, there's a story, a big decision, and often a lot more emotion and complexity than people expect. This podcast is all about giving you access to the people, insights, and strategies behind smart property decisions so you can make better moves, whether you're buying your first home, investing, selling, downsizing, or planning your next step. Today, we're talking about a part of property that often doesn't get the attention it deserves, and that's what happens after you buy. Because owning an investment property isn't just about the purchase, it's about how that property performs over time and the role a great property management team plays in that. Today, I'm joined by Nicola Michels from Longview. Nicola has over 2 decades of experience in property and works closely with rental providers to help them set their investment properties up for future success from the very beginning. What I really value about Nicola's perspective is that she sees a wide range of properties and ownership approaches and understands what actually drives strong performance over time. Nicola, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Mel. Good to see you.
Nicola, tell us a bit about your role and what you're seeing in the market at the moment.
Well, I'm a senior business development manager at Longview, so I've just hit my 7 years with them, which is excellent. At Longview, we do serve all of metropolitan Melbourne. So over the past 7 years, I've had excellent experience in all over metropolitan Melbourne. So,
and when you're talking all over, you're talking all over. Some of the suburbs, I'm like, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. There's new suburbs popping up every day, and we also have a very strong concentration in the inner suburbs of Melbourne as well. So we certainly go down south as far as Pakenham, Officer, out west, up north, and that space is growing as well.
Which is fantastic for your clients, because a lot of people are not putting all their eggs in one basket in buying multiple properties have purchased all over the city.
Yeah, 100%.
But they can have one team look after that, which is not common.
Yeah, exactly. So we call those landlords our multis who have multiple properties within Melbourne. We actually have an office in Brisbane as well. We have multis across Melbourne and Brisbane. But yeah, it does enable the one owner or investor to be dealing with the one property manager or relationship manager that we have. So it's really streamlines communication. But to ask, about what is happening in the market, it does vary greatly. So in the inner suburbs, and when I say inner suburbs of Melbourne, Melbourne is one of the most spread out cities. So I'm talking inner sort of 20K of the CBD. Vacancies are still very low and there's high demand for properties. So we are seeing rents on the increase. We have seen a reduction in the number of rental properties on the market.
We're definitely finding we're selling a lot of investment
and I think that my last figure was around 10%. Fewer properties, and I believe that's attributable to the changes in legislation, additional costs for landlords, and obviously, interest rate rises can affect some. So, and that obviously, if there's a lowering in supply, then there's an increase in demand. In the outer suburbs of Melbourne, particularly in sort of the greenfields areas, there is a lot of construction going on, which is great to see. There's more and more houses coming on every day. So again, it's that supply and demand ratio where we're seeing a larger supply of stock. So we're not seeing the rent increases so much, of the same percentage that we see in the inner suburbs.
And some more vacancy time out there too.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
Not as taken up as quickly.
Yeah, that also comes down to pricing. So where you do get the pricing right as one of 3 factors that lease a property, where you get that right, we will be leasing at Longview. We will be leasing properties within sort of ideally 2 to 3 weeks of hitting the market.
And that's not necessarily a property that's vacant either. It could already have a tenant in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So minimising the vacancy time for any client.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Do you find that people focus so much on buying the property but don't think enough about how it's going to perform once they've owned it?
Once they've owned it. So if they're buying a property, so it's really important that investors take the time, do their due diligence when buying an investment property. And I always say, buy with your head, not your heart. We do see a lot of investors who maybe look at properties or areas and property types that they themselves would like to live in. It's not necessarily the case for the rental market. So ideally, an investor does choose professional guidance like yourself as a buyer's advocate. To actually, look at the numbers. The data don't lie, as we say. So look at the areas, look at the rental appeal of a particular property. And also you can get additional guidance in terms of look at the bones of a property. And if it does need, some maintenance or whatever to bring up that rental return, That's where a buyer's advocate, again, can help you and organise maintenance and consider those items.
That's really buying to, and not just for renting, but for your future sale as well, looking at buying for the masses. Like, what are the masses going to want? Not just what you might want as an individual or someone else might want as an individual. You want to get a property where many people are going to want to rent it. That's going to keep your vacancy rates really low. And then when you do decide to sell it, if many people want to buy it, that's only going to push the prices up for you on the selling side of things too.
Yeah, exactly. So when you are looking at, what has rental appeal to the masses, you are looking at location, you're looking at its vicinity to schools and to shops. Like the walk score, for example. You're looking at aesthetic appeal as well. Is the internal of the property a sort of a very neutral scheme so people can actually see themselves in the property or can make it their own? It's really important a long-term tenant is going to put more money in an investor's pocket. So to keep that tenant for the longer term, they need to be making it their home. They need to feel comfortable. They need to feel safe. So where you can do that, or buy a property like that, or turn that property into that safe and attractive property, you'll see a longer term tenant, less vacancy, and happy tenants look after the property.
Which is what every owner wants.
Exactly.
So from your experience, what do you think is the difference between an average investment property and a great one?
Okay, so an average investment property will be one that rent's paid on time, the tenants are looking after the property, but is it creating wealth for the owner? Okay, so a high-performing property, not only will you receive the rent and manage the finances around the property, an excellent investment property will make you money over time. So you're getting a good rental return, plus it's gaining capital growth at the same time.
You talking about that has made me think about how important a good team is around any investor. We've spoken about it, to circle back to getting the right advice to buy the property, which is obviously where we come in at Domain & Co. Getting 100%. The right advice to manage the property, where you come in at Longview and the team there. Like, if you don't have that right advice around you, and you try and do it yourself, or you listen to your brother-in-law at the barbecue on Sunday because they had an investment property once, or their aunt or uncle did and had a good or bad experience. That right team around you is so pivotal to your success.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said before, data don't lie. It's amazing how many investors come to me and say, I think I can get this for the property, or I should be getting that rent. And it's like, that's actually, the advertised price. It's not the price that it maybe started at. And quite often,
how long has it been
average
online?
punter is not privy to what it actually leases for. They're not also privy to how long it took. And that days on market is extremely, the cost of vacancy is huge. So where you have a team around you, for example, like yourself, and at Longview, and most agents have it, is that access to the databases, where you can see what did it lease for, what were the days on market, how long did it take. We have access to all the photos. We have access to the history as well. And a dedicated team has got the time. You're paying them to help you.
Absolutely.
So, and they've got the time to make sure you're making the right decision. Buying an investment property it's not buying a car even. It's huge. It's one of life's biggest assets. And honestly, sometimes it really does surprise me how people don't seek guidance and they think what they know is right.
Yeah.
And then, but 5 years down the track, it's even gone backwards in value, which I know yourself and myself,
crazy.
I mean, I was back
losses
when I was in the sales arena as well. And we are seeing some properties go backwards at the moment, which it's just not a good story for
no, it's really sad.
Yeah,
because they're
for a number of
their
investors.
hopes on something that their financial planner has told them, or they've seen some information on the internet, haven't sort of done a deep dive into the research and bought a property off the plan 5 years ago, need to sell it now and are losing 100,000. But we can't see them recouping that cost, so you've got to, I guess, choose where you cut your losses at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that you see investors make when they first hand over a property to be managed?
When they first hand it over, well, I guess it's in the process of, maybe the first mistake is prior to handover is in the choice of agent. Do your homework. Some people think all agents are the same. They're not. And people think, and they buy based on fees as well. You pay for what you get.
It's amazing. I find people buy, they'll buy an investment property in Melbourne, and an investment property in Melbourne are good ones, 850K plus now. You can certainly find them cheaper, but are they a good investment property? Circle back to what we were talking about before. Then they talk to a property manager and they won't go with a good property manager for the sake of 1%. in management fees.
Extra.
And we're
is.
talking about less than a cup of coffee a day when they're asking somebody to look after their $1 million investment.
Yeah.
It's like handing someone, I've always used the analogy, it's like handing someone $1 million in a briefcase and saying, here, look after this for me, and I really trust you to do that, but I'm going to not pay you very much to do that, and I understand that you're not trained and I understand that you don't know much, but that's okay, I'm going to save less than a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Where's the sense?
Yeah, there really isn't sense in that. But as well, it's that concept of do your homework, do your due diligence, and choose someone that you trust or know that you can learn to trust. Obviously, at the outset, trust takes time, but absolutely do your due diligence first. So, have a look at where their structure is internally. When you hand over a property, you need to have excellent marketing. What marketing do they do? Still, I go online and I see, very basic photography. It's sideways, there's bent cupboards and bent floors, and it's just very unappealing and very unattractive, and it's not appealing to a renter. And yes, that was years ago, but now everyone's on the internet, and that's where people are looking. Gone are the days of
first impressions.
Gone are the days of a renter going past an agency and grabbing the paper listing of properties. That's gone. I'm showing my age now. I remember it. But back in the day, you have to have excellent marketing, and you need to choose an agency who's got a proven. They should be showing you how they
you can easily see that. You just jump on their website, look at their listings, and go, all their properties are marketed really well.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if one isn't, that one could be yours, and that's going to stop tenants coming to have a look at it and create more vacancy time for you.
Yeah, 100%. So, for example, with every listing I bring on, it will always be what I call a polished presentation package, which is professional photography, a virtual tour. We also add in virtual styling as well. In a competitive market like we do see in the outer suburbs, it is so important that your property pops and they're the one that they're looking at on the weekend.
It makes a difference. If they've got 5 properties to have a look at and they've only got time to look at 2, they're going to look at the 2 that stand out the most on the internet. Exactly. And that's not the one with the poor photos. It's not the one without the virtual furniture in it. The furniture creates a feeling. Yeah. All of those things are going to help them.
And a floor plan.
Minimise loss.
How much do we love floor plans? Everyone does. I've never met someone who doesn't. I personally, and I do speak to renters as well, they're frustrated if there's no floor plan there. There's like, what are they hiding? And they can't picture themselves there. That one, that's too hard. We're not sure about that one, but that one, we can definitely see ourselves in. And let's go and have a look on.
And even if they've had a look at 5, the better your marketing is, the more it helps them remember your property and think, oh, I remember that floor plan. Yeah. Yes, I remember that room. I'm going to go and apply for that one because I can't really remember the other one and they don't have good photos or a full plan for me to remember it.
Yeah, so when you're choosing your agent, you need to make sure their marketing is excellent. You also need to be making sure that they're service driven and that they're going to provide you the service. Like, well, how do I know they're going to do that? Ask the, your prospective agent, what services do you provide? How many opens are you doing a weekend? So at Longview, we do them Saturdays, Sundays and midweek for the majority of our vacant properties across metropolitan Melbourne.
Sunday is amazing because there's so much to do on a Saturday. You've got your own sports, you've got your kids' sports, you've got all your errands you've got to run because you've only got 2 days off from your own job. So if you miss the opens on a Saturday, to have them on a Sunday is amazing.
Yeah. So and on that, we would lease properties on average a week faster because we often maybe have the partner come that day for the second inspection or themselves come for the second inspection, or like you say, people who work on the Saturday can come on the Sunday. So that certainly speeds up the process. But it's not just around how many opens you do. Service is around having a team of people in the background, following up people who've come to the open. What is the feedback? Some renters ask specific questions about what they may need, what would make them apply. And there might be small things. There might be aesthetic.
Add a built-in robe that could improve the value ongoing.
Yeah, a built-in robe. A lot of renters don't want to be lugging around, big wardrobes.
Well, the property manager said to the owner, look, it's borderline, it might need painting. The one person who wants to move in would like it repainted. It's going to benefit the owner well down
100%. 100%. It might be something that they've already thought about or arranging quotes, but that just drives, that process home. So you need that service, but also in the referencing and choosing your tenant. Nothing's more important at the moment than choosing the right tenant. At the moment, legislation has changed quite drastically, to be honest. We saw the safety compliance, which is excellent, that came in 2023, making properties safe, and that has continued to grow. The list, like the 14 minimum standards check, and that's continuing. And now further into, energy saving shower heads, heaters, insulations coming in,
air conditioner,
air conditioning,
drafty windows and doors.
You need an agent, obviously, who's going to be ahead of the game to make sure that that's all going to happen. And if you need to do works now, that might, affect. It might come into play when the legislation comes in. So it's like, well, hang on, well, let's put in the right air conditioner now. So anyway, back to service. I digress there a bit. So you need service. You need someone behind the scenes contacting renters, getting feedback, getting them to apply, getting the highest price possible at the advertised price.
And what I really like about Longview is you're putting your money where your mouth is. So you're actually guaranteeing your service. And I don't know of many other agents, if any, that do this. There's actually a document that you give clients to say, here's the service offering that we have, and if we don't do it, we will give you money back.
Yeah, it will 3 months management back if we don't meet all of this criteria. So there are, every day I speak to owners who's, I haven't heard from my property manager for a week. They're not returning my calls. Nothing's been done with the marketing. Nothing's been done with the pricing. Not happy. They still don't move because investors are very loyal to their agents. And I think it's on average, an agent needs to make 4 significant errors in their service before an investor will move. It costs nothing to move, change agents.
And I think things can happen, right? With any relationship, something can happen. Have a chat with your property manager, get it fixed. But if it continually doesn't get fixed, why would you stay?
Yeah, exactly. So we don't want to be put in that box the same as an agent who doesn't respond. So we're saying we're not going to do that and we'll give you money back
if we don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
what do you think are some practical ways that an owner can maximise their rental return and minimise their vacancy?
Absolutely comes down to aesthetic in terms of the physical property aesthetics. The better, the better it looks, the higher rent you can achieve. So if that's painting, new carpets, modern blinds, and they don't have to be expensive.
No.
They're just investment grade carpets, blinds, light fittings, some older properties as well, just changing the door handles or the bathroom taps in the kitchen.
Yeah, changing your oyster lights to down lights.
People love, and there is a lot of new stock coming on, so people love the idea of, a fresh, crisp property, even internally. It can be an old property, but if the internal is nice, fresh and clean. The other way is, when choosing an agent who's going to choose the right tenant. Obviously, he's going to pay the rent.
We also touched on the advertising and how important that is because that can really get a tenant in quicker. So that vacancy time with your week in, week out of rent loss essentially can be
100%.
Well.
Yeah. So that's where, that's the agent, making sure you choose your agent who's going to perform and serve you.
So property management is fairly reactive, but there's a lot of proactive things that can be done by a property management team for maintenance, protecting the long-term value of an investment. Some owners think, I'm not living there, why would I do that? But, not doing maintenance and proactive maintenance can just cause more of an issue down the track. Instead of repainting a windowsill, they're now replacing the rotten windowsill. Yeah. Instead of regrouting the shower, they're now having to do some major retiling and plasterwork on the other side where it's leaked through. And those sorts of things aren't covered under insurance. Tell us what you think about the importance of proactive maintenance.
Well, prevention's better than a cure, right? It's as simple as that. So the list goes on what you can be doing. It starts, from your roof to your gutters.
Gutters
to
is a big thing.
Yeah, gutters. Oh, gosh.
And it's funny because the investment property is not in the owner's face all of the time, like their own home.
Yeah.
They'd see their own gutters and go, oh, we need to do that. Or the air conditioner works better if you service it every couple of years. Or,
100%.
You see things happening.
Absolutely. And pool maintenance. We have many properties with pools, and looking after a pool it's not hard, but a lot of people don't do it properly.
But it takes time and expertise.
Exactly. So proactive is engage a pool maintenance, include that in the rent. So you as an owner have the peace of mind that it's being looked after.
And same with the garden. If you're supplying a property in the garden, supply a gardener. You've got eyes on the property every month.
Exactly.
And your garden's going to be well looked after.
And it will always have that street appeal for the next tenant or
that's right.
when the time comes to sell.
Because I find majority of people aren't gardeners and don't really love to do it, but they love to have one.
100, yeah. And people are time poor, so keep it looking good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nicola, at what point should an owner review whether their property is performing as it should be?
Well, they can review as often as they like, but essentially I would like to see every 6 months. But reviewing is having a chat to your experienced property manager At Longview, we offer an appraisal on the property at any point in time. Rent reviews come into, is the property performing? Is the rent at the right amount? So we're ahead of the game in that sense, because we are always reviewing the rent. You can change rent once every 12 months. So we will do a rent review, we'll present comparables, we'll have a chat with the owner, like this is where, and you're also taking your renter into consideration as well. Are they great? Are they looking after the property? Do we want to keep them? Because obviously, them vacating because you've hiked the rent up too high leads you into the cost of vacancy and then having to pay another letting fee as well. So we take all that into consideration and make sure that any day of the year, your rent is where it should be. That's really important.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that you guys are specialising in the property management aspect and have obviously us working there as a vendor advocate, which isn't always about selling. Like you talk to a sale agent and they want to sell the property. So it's always a good time to sell no matter what. Yeah. We had a client the other day who's renting a property and has been having a terrible time getting the owners corporation to sort out a roof leak. And he came to us thinking he wanted to sell. But I had a chat with him on his reasons and we've fixed the roof leak now and he's keeping it. Yeah. So it's not always about what's good for us. Yes. It's about what's good for the client is what I really love.
Yeah, I think that you cannot underestimate the difference of having property management focused agency be sort of your corner store agency. A property focused agency will always give you unbiased advice, your long-term plan for the property. I think that's really important. Generally speaking, a sales agent want the sale. That's their end goal. That's where they make their money. We don't have that luxury at Longview of doing sales. We just have to be good at what we do in the property management space. So if we think, hold on to it, because we'll give you, just because we're property management doesn't mean we can't give you appraisals and the value of the property. That's where you come in, Mel. So where people want buyer, seller advocacy or simply an appraisal, or if, you want to cast your eye over and see what we can do, we can provide you that advice as well. And we do work, we obviously work as a team together quite often, but it works well and we don't have any unhappy investors.
No, it's great.
Yeah, really good with us.
And you can see that on the Google reviews, which is great. Can you share an example that you've seen in real life of a small change that's made a big difference to how the property's performed?
A small change? Well, changing agents doesn't have to be a big thing.
So it's a small change with a massive impact.
It's a small change with a massive
impact. There's an owner who's unhappy with an agent.
I mean,
you often find the tenants 10 times unhappy with that agent.
This is still blows my mind, but I do pick up properties from other agents. So we call that, obviously, takeover management. I was referred to a gentleman who purchased an established property early December last year. It was still vacant in February. Their current agent was citing it's holiday, it's Christmas, it's New Year, it's holidays, everyone's back at school now, every excuse under the sun. And this was an agent local to that property too. There was absolutely no upkeep of the garden and the garden had pretty much died over that summer period. So it was pretty dire.
And they're employing the local agents so they can drive these and have a look, but they never actually
But they don't, exactly. So I took over the property, went out to inspect. Yeah, had to have, the serious conversation with the owner. It's like it needs a clean. We need to do the gardening. This is where the rental price is at. The marketing was very poor. They didn't even have a floor plan on the ad when there was a floor plan available from the sale. But anyway, we literally secured a tenant following the works, which took 2 weeks using our trusted trades. We had secured a tenant within 2 weeks.
Done. Amazing.
And clean and happy.
I remember taking over a property once an agent couldn't rent. We just put virtual furniture in it and in the photos and re-advertised it and found a tenant within a week. Yeah. Crazy what little things can help. And whether it was that or whether it was a service we provided to tenants or, whatever it might have been, just that little change,
little
difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Closing question. If someone owns an investment property right now and is listening to our podcast, what's one thing they should do to make sure it is performing at its best?
Engage a professional agent.
Yeah, the best agent being Nicola at Longview.
Hey,
Nicola, look, thank you so much. It's been incredibly valuable and such an important part of the property conversation is property management. If anyone would like to connect with Nicola or the team at Longview, we're including the details in the notes below, and we'll also have a free takeaway for you. So make sure you check that out. If you own an investment property and want to understand whether it's performing as well as it should be, I'm also here to help guide you. Thank you again for listening to Melbourne's Property Brief, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode.
Thanks, Mel.